Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darragh O'Connor.
Yo, what's going on? It's Leon Slater, and you are listening to Darragh O'Connor on the Wrestling Rewind. You get me?
This is Impact Wrestling superstar Cowboy James Storm.
This is Jeff Jarrett, the King of the Mountain.
I'm Tom Hannafin from TNA Wrestling. You're listening to the Wrestling Rewind.
And if you're not, sorry about your damn luck.
The Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello folks, it is Tuesday here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, our show after St. Patrick's Day, so I hope you guys had a good one. We didn't do anything special this week or last week because it doesn't really matter. St. Patrick's Day kind of creeped up, but and also, you know, wrestling doesn't have a good history with that yet, so I think it's one of the only sports or sports adjacent stuff that doesn't actually do St. Patrick's Day well. Look, and I know this is a bit of a meme at this point, but hockey do it really well. They like dye the ice green and they have different like teamed nights, so it just kind of works. So I don't know. I wouldn't even want the St. Patrick's Day teamed Raw or SmackDown. That's a bit too Vince for me. But I do have to say, when they used to do the Halloween stuff around Taboo Tuesday or Cyber Sunday, they should bring that back. I think the Taboo Tuesday, Cyber Sundays, if WDB are ever listening, now is the time to bring that back as a premise because, you know, we've covered them in the past. They're on the channel, but absolutely one of the best things that were a bit too early. But as I said, I am not alone. I am joined by my co-host, Christopher Fanning. Christopher, how are you doing, sir?
I am great, and you're talking about holiday gimmicks. I have two words for you: gobbledygooker. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Well, come here. Like, obviously, you weren't on the show when we were covering Cyber Sunday and Taboo Tuesday, and I would be like, let's do it again, but no, they're on the channel. But what did you think of that? And are you kind of with me there that in the world of social media now where you have a WWE app, why aren't they doing it now?
It doesn't make any sense. And again, I still feel like even back then it was kind of rigged to where they were just like, okay, this is what we're going to say, but this is what we're going to do. I never really fully believed that. I would need to see real-time stats for me to think it's legit. But I do like the idea of the fans picking the spots, the stipulations, what title goes on. I would love to see that. And then they can figure out, okay, who's going over.
Yeah, because there was, like, it was kind of funny because when they used to do it, or the Power to the People Raw, I think is the last time they did it, but still, it was a bit too lame. They'd have, like, Falls Count Anywhere match, Hardcore match, or Street Fight. And you're like, that's the same match. It's the same match, you know? But we got clarification because at the time when we were reviewing it, we didn't really know if it was shoot or not, right? If the actual voting was real. Turns out the voting actually was real, right? But they would twist it in a certain way that would still work. But there were still some random like occurrences that happened at this, and apparently one of them was the Chris Jericho Shelton Benjamin match for the IC belt, where as they were walking out, Shelton Benjamin was told, hey, look, you're going over, because he didn't even know he was wrestling tonight on the night, and it's just kind of like, oh, well, okay, that's pretty cool. So I do think WWE, for all of its sins, and there are many, they do tend to be too early, and being too early is nearly as bad as being too late. Like, the WWE Network is one of those things that it's like, that is the future. They saw the future of streaming, and near the end, it grew into this thing that people really liked and really appreciated. I think if that had launched now, oh man, it would have been gangbusters. But it just didn't, really, you know? And I think the Cyber Sunday, Taboo Tuesday thing is unfortunately a casualty of that. But look, before we get into it, we have an awful lot to cover this week. There was a lot of WWE news. We have some AEW news. We have a retro review, and Wrestlemania now is starting to kind of take a bit more shape. But before we get into it, we were kind of talking before we went on air, Christopher, that we were talking before we went on air that we had a bunch of news, right? And let's run through some of because there's so much news to keep breaking. What are the big news stories that you really focused in on this week?
One of the ones I'll be talking about on my show is Tom Brady, who for those who do not know, was a former quarterback for the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL. The WWE fake BS and said that superstars would get hit in the throat if they tried to sack him in the NFL.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
Well, here's the
Okay.
thing. So with this, he apparently, okay, so there is some, I don't watch the NFL, right? I just don't. And a lot of people do in Ireland, actually. It's weird. It has like a really niche following. It's more popular than hockey, which upsets me, but like a lot of people do watch it, and then the Super Bowl is a big event. He owns, or part owns, the Las Vegas Vikings, right? Or Raiders. I think
it's the LA Raiders, yes.
The LA Raiders, yes. So, and their mascot's a Viking. So he owns that team, or a big chunk of that team. And from what I've heard about this, they actually want to involve him in WrestleMania, which, yeah, I hope not as well. So I do think that's what they're trying to do, because like they're at their stadium, right? That like Allegiant is their home base, right? So it makes sense. And look, this isn't unprecedented. At WrestleMania 40, there were some random guy in the ring at one point, and there was an eagle and some cheerleaders. Now, I didn't know who they were because I was at WrestleMania. I found out who they were after the fact by someone telling me who it was, the guy I was sitting beside. And he was like, hey, yeah, that's, they're Eagles players. I was like, okay, I guess that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, as a Cowboys fan, I was very disappointed.
But, it's not outside the realm's possibility. What I don't like about this is it buries WWE. It buries wrestling. And there's a line between I'm tougher than you, you're not tougher than me, and this is fake and stupid. And I think he basically said that, right? They're the words he used.
Pretty much.
Because
this is a guy when he practices, when he in preseason has to wear a red jersey because he's the quarterback. Don't hit the quarterback. Come on. But don't let your line talk for you, bro.
But you know what this is like? I would love to just say that this is a WWE problem, but AEW did this a couple of weeks ago where they had some influencer on it. It was like Perez Hilton, or no, that was TNA. TNA, please don't do it ever again. It was some influencer they had on. It was slightly better than Perez Hilton, but still not good. And there was one of the girls there. She was like a talent model or something, and she was walking around with some wrestler to do this. It was just to fill the storyline. Anyway, what happened then was on her social media, she actually posted a story that was like, oh, this is so lame and stupid. So lame, so fake, so stupid. And I was like, oh my God, that's what this is like. But it's kind of worse because that was just some random girl who was part of an entourage that really didn't matter that much, and everyone's kind of forgotten about it. This is a focal point of WrestleMania where you have this guy calling the event fake. And it's like, what are you trying to do? I don't understand. I don't know how that gets anyone over, personally. Like, look.
That brings up another question, though. Which is worse, if a fan or a random person says it, or someone like Nikki Bella at a NASCAR race was interviewed and said, oh, it's all fake and scripted. She comes out and says it. Yeah. Which is worse at this point.
That's
like you're pretty much killing kayfabe with one.
Well, look, kayfabe.
Wow, I get that.
Look, kayfabe is dead. And look, I even said on this show that wrestling is fake to an extent. But at the same time, our movies. No, the new Spider-Man trailer came out. Tom Holland isn't Peter Parker. He's not Spider-Man. Mary Jane remembers who he is because Adana and him are married now. That's how I kind of see wrestling, where it's like it's scripted and stuff, but like you're in the ring, man. You know what it's like. Taking a bump hurts, getting hit with a chair hurts. That kind of stuff isn't fake. I think there is a differentiation between it's a work sport, and then kind of taking it at that point, and then someone being like, "Oh, that's fake. That's stupid." It's like, come on. No,
I've always thought of wrestling as soap operas for men.
Soap operas with punching.
Yeah. There's punching, there's hitting, there's a story. Sometimes, not currently, but normally there's a story.
Yeah, and look, I think that's the healthiest way to look at this. But it seems to be this, and not every like legitimate sportsman has this opinion of wrestlers and wrestling. And I know from my own country in Ireland, even like go and search for anyone listening now or on Phoenix or even on the internet. Go and search RTE Tommy Tiernan interview with Becky Lynch, even RT Becky Lynch. And it was when Becky Lynch was the world champion, or just soon after it. And we had an interview with one of Ireland's biggest comedians. And he's very famous. He's in Father Ted and all that kind of stuff. And Dairy Girls. But the way he is with her is so disrespectful to wrestling as a whole. Like, you have one of the biggest women's, and look, I know, Christopher, you're going to go mad at this because you're a huge Becky Lynch fan. But,
Yes.
Do watch it because you'll see what I'm talking about. But basically, like, you have one of the biggest stars in wrestling at the time. It could be one of the biggest women's stars ever, and he just treats her like, oh, it's so fake, it's so dumb. It's like, come on, what are you doing? I don't understand how that's still a thing in 2026 when everyone knows it's not real. Everyone knows it's scripted. It's you know what it's like? It's like if you're watching a movie and then someone stands up and goes, oh, it's fake, not real, that's all CGI or whatever. I've had
people at shows that they come watching the promotion that I'm in, they come and go, oh, it's all fake, it's all fake. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me put you in the $1 Million Dream and see how fake it really is.
Absolutely.
I put them in. And they're sitting there, they're tapping almost immediately. I'm like, not so fake now, is it? Oh man, I thought it was a bunch of malarkey. I'm like, nope, not. It's real.
Yeah, but see, that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't even get to that point. Like, where you'd kick their ass, but at the same time, it's like,
well,
just from watching a TV thing or a play or even a performance, it's like, yeah, look, of course it's not. We scripted it out, but it's still gonna have this, and this, and then you have the physicality of it where, yeah, like, getting slammed hurts, it's a athletic thing. And then obviously, submissions, they're submissions, right? I mean, the line tamer, there's a reason why Chris Jericho doesn't do the line tamer, because that actually hurts,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things. But I am concerned that WWE now are properly making the same mistakes that we would, land-based TNA or AEW on, because both those companies are going to get more of a leeway with certain things, but WWE at WrestleMania, man, that's really bad. That's just a bad mix. But listen, on that point, AEW had a lot of news this week, and one of them for you, I thought was very interesting. So we had the debut of the baddest woman on the planet, or the most boring woman on the planet, Rousey, debuted for AEW, and obviously she came out after the Toni Storm match, and the Toni Storm is going to be away for a while. I don't know why they did this. Before I give my thoughts on this, look, you were a Ronda Rousey fan. You were. What happened?
When she was in UFC, oh yeah, she's the baddest woman on the planet. And then as time progressed, I started thinking about it going, if she's beating women in the first round, like the first 30, 40 seconds, are these women even really qualified to fight? So I started questioning it. And then when I think it was Holly Holmes was the first person that she actually faced that beat her, and I'm like, okay, she's not as bad as we thought she was. She was the only real competition in the company at that. And she pulled a Brock Lesnar. She got her butt whooped, and she went to WWE because Brock did the same thing. He won the title. He did great, and then he got whooped and goes, you know what? I'm going to go back to the land of scripted television. So he goes back to WWE, and she did the same thing. She killed Asuka's spot at the Rumble that year by pointing at the WrestleMania sign after Asuka won the Rumble. And I'm like, why? My God, and then she started badmouthing the fans, talking bad. Like, she teetered the line between shoot and work, but then when she got pretty much was done with WWE, she just annihilated the fan base, just alienating us, saying how much of a loser fan base we are. And I'm like, we're the ones putting food on your table right now, and you shouldn't be talking bad about it. So my respect for her was gone that quick. And there is an interview that Becky Lynch gives talking about that very same thing. It's a great interview. Whether you're a Becky fan or not, she's speaking a bunch of truth in that interview.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know why. Okay, cynically, I know why Ronda Rousey's doing this for a payday. That's fair. I'm not going to begrudge anyone that goes and takes Tony Khan's money or Tony Khan's dad's money, because he has a lot of it, more money than he could possibly conceive of. So why not get paid, right? But at the same time, I don't know why anyone would be a fan of Ronda Rousey in AEW. From my understanding, being around the AEW fans, going to some events, and even when Martin was on the show, we would talk about the AEW mindset. Ronda Rousey is everything that AEW isn't. Like, yeah, she was a legitimate UFC fighter. She was really, really good at judo, but she's not a great worker.
Nope.
Her promos are pretty terrible. Like, she can't cut one. She always has that puffy face that just makes her look like she's either pooped or about to poop. Out of all the women in WWE who are fired or let go or didn't work out with a similar gimmick. Shayna Baszler is who AEW should have made a play for. That's who, if I wanted, the baddest woman in the world gimmick, if I wanted to have a character like that, Shayna Baszler. Because she's legitimately interesting. She doesn't look like she's trying to poop. And she can also go. And she can cut a good promo. And I'm shocked. I've seen some AEW fans jump on this. A lot of them really hate her, but not for in-ring stuff, just for personally what her beliefs or, what she said or whatever. And look, whatever. I mean, that's neither here nor there. That's beyond the scope of the show, but it's more, for me, I was like, what are you going to do? Where's this going to go? Ronda I never watched a show for Ronda Rousey in WWE.
No.
I think when she was there and she did that tag team match, and she had that little thing with Stephanie and Triple H, that was cool. But I would have been happy enough if that had been it for her. I can't even think of one good match that she had.
Not one.
Not one. Look, she was in there with top female talent. And at the same time, it's just like, well, if WWE can't make Ronda Rousey interesting, AEW sure as hell aren't. Because, again, AEW, that isn't a job to AEW. You guys know this yourself. It's a work rate company. Ronda doesn't work. Ronda does Ronda Rousey things, and then that's it. So, again, look, she got paid. Happy days for her. Not going to complain. But at the same time, it's very hypocritical that you have someone who buried professional wrestling, which is apparently supposed to be the AEW thing, going, oh, we love wrestling and WWE and E-Drone and all the stupid stuff that you hear if you say anything bad about AEW. And then you bring her in, it's like, well, I mean, that woman doesn't like you guys anyway, so I don't really understand what's going on. And there was but we'll leave that there. There was another stupid thing that happened in AEW this week. Actually, two stupid things, but one is significantly worse than the other. Do you remember Ricochet?
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Holy God. So, a former host of the show, actually, technically, the third seat is always open there for if Mr. Dave Stevens ever pops in. He's a huge fan of Ricochet, and he was, because he knows him for years going to independent shows, so he actually knows Ricochet a very long time, and maintains that he actually was a quite nice guy at one point, which I would believe. But it's like Conor McGregor. I know a bunch of people that have fought Conor McGregor and trained with Conor McGregor, and apparently he was the nicest guy in the world. And I don't know, money and other things change people, right? So maybe this is a case. But so Jack Perry won the national championship and then this started this whole thing where Ricochet lost the belt, and then he had a crash out on TV, and the guy lives online, terminally online, and he went after this fan, which I don't know about you, but look, people say stuff on the internet. Obviously there needs to be, like, I've joked that one of my proudest online achievements was getting blocked by Hulk Hogan, which I stand by. But at the same time, it's just like, that was funny. This is just kind of a bit too far, and I think blocking someone, fair enough, if you're in that position, is a better move than what happened here. So I won't go into it too much, but he attacked the fan online after they commented on his loss, and basically said that they were happy he had this condition, and I believe it was MS, which is a very, very harrowing condition to have. So, I mean, heel or not, that's just disgusting. It's like,
there's just some lines you don't cross, and that it doesn't matter what the fan, as long as the fans are not being personal, which I don't think they were just rating the match, and then he just went off on this, oh yeah, I'm glad you got this and this and that, and it's like, you don't say stuff like that, especially to a fan.
Yeah, but like, it's not even, where does that go, right? It's like, all you've done is insult this fan whose life they have serious problems beyond wrestling, beyond this, and it's just like, okay, great, right, you insulted the fan and probably ruined their day. What's going to happen now? You can't get a storyline on it, you can't use it on TV. All it makes you look like is a horrific person, and it's just terrible. So, and it's mad because I've seen some people defend this, and it's like, how can you possibly defend that? And look, I will say that, this wouldn't happen in WWE. This wouldn't happen in TNA. They need to actually if they're going to do this kind of stuff, there needs to be some kind of social media manager, some community manager, because it's like, and it has to be consequences of that, because it's just like, right, all that's happened here is, and look, you can say, no publicity is bad publicity. It kind of, this is pretty bad publicity, all right. This is disgusting. And look, again, I get some people saying, oh, he's been a heel. It's like, Yeah, he is being a heel. And I've even heard some people say, well, Christian Cage was saying he was happy that people's dad was dead. It's like, that was on TV. That's not the same thing. And I'm just so puzzled by this. I can't believe and it's funny because some people will, again, in the AEW crowd, they'll do the ice thing is a big chant where they're, trying to be so caring about other people. And then they'll defend this. I don't understand how that mindset can exist at the same time.
You bring up that you got blocked by, was it Twitter that you got blocked by Hulk Hogan from? Yeah. Was it Twitter?
No, it was Twitter.
Let me one up you on that one because I got blocked by Kevin Owens early in his WWE career. He had posted a picture of himself and his wife, and this is back when I liked to troll. And I don't do it anymore because it's just such a bad thing to do. But he had a picture of him and his wife, and he said, of all the accomplishments, and he had listed them. He said some stuff, and my comment was, well, it's obvious you're good at photoshopping. There's no way that's your real wife. And I got blocked within 10 minutes of that post.
But look, as I said, that's the difference.
But this was right after he beat Cena at Elimination Chamber. It was right around that same time frame. So I had a little bit of hate in my heart because he beat my guy.
Yeah,
I was very unhappy. Mm-hmm. Would I do it now? Probably not. I would rethink my words and try to be funny. But he didn't like it, so he blocked me, and that's fine.
But see, I think that's a much better way to handle that than launching a personal attack on people. It's just like, there's no reason for it. Like, you're not going to, okay, just say you had launched a personal attack against you. You're not going to show up on Raw and wrestle him.
No.
So goofy. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, yeah, again, look, if you're an AEW fan and you can kind of let me know how the two things where you can be very compassionate and then also support someone who says that kind of stuff at the same time. Love to know that, because that's the thing I'm most puzzled about that whole story. So look, Tony Khan, if you're listening to this or someone in AEW is listening, you need to get a community manager, because you can't have people just saying going on. Have someone with the power. Have someone with the power to just delete the tweet after it goes up if it's too crazy. Just do that. Go, look, let us log in and just remove that tweet, because there's no reason for you to be doing that.
Even then, nothing that goes out is gone forever. Somebody will screenshot it and save it forever and put it out there. And it went viral fairly quickly.
It did.
So
it did, but at least
I look at it like this.
Sorry, go on.
I look at it like this. I didn't need a reason not to watch AEW, but thanks a lot, Ronda Rousey and Ricochet. Well played. Well played.
Look, as I said to you, I do keep an eye on it, just because obviously we do this show, and you want to kind of give it a fair shot. And then every time I try to give it a fair shot, stupid stuff happens. And look, that isn't the only piece of AEW like snatching defeat from the jaws of victory this week. So look, there was a Texas Death match on. I'm very sick of those matches. There's only so many times you can see stuff like this happening and be like, okay. And the needle spot, so there's a spot, right? Look, this is great entertainment, by the way, that kids are supposed to watch, apparently. So MJF has a spot where he puts a syringe, like a needle syringe, through a man's face. And that's like a spot that they do. I don't want to see that.
No.
Like, I don't want to, like, the staple gun spot I didn't particularly like. The glass spot, I'm like, right, fair enough in small doses if you really, really have to. But then again, it's like, you use it sparse, and after you use some thumbtacks and a barbed wire, and fair enough. I find that disgusting. And here's the thing. Adam Page and MJF have been wrestling for so long that that's the last match that I saw in AEW. They were, in Forbidden Door last year. That was the match I fell asleep during, because I was bored of it then. Still bored of it. I just don't think MJF is a draw in any way. And Adam Page is less of a draw. So there's 3 reasons to not watch AEW, and they can change every single one of them. But I'd be interested to see if they do or not. At the
end of the day, the gimmicks need to be more explained. Why would they? I don't get it. And we have the same problem in the promotion that I'm in here. Mm-hmm. Is that everybody wants to have a gimmick match? They want to have a hardcore match. They want to have this. I'm like, why? Tell me why, and we'll do it.
Yeah.
Give me justification. Did this match between MJF and Adam Page need to have that? I don't think it did. I don't know enough about it to make a clear decision.
No, look, I will say on that point, it did, because it was, like the blow off, like if he loses, he can never challenge again, which, they didn't learn from Cody Rhodes. They didn't learn from that. They're like, oh, let's just do that again. So obviously this company doesn't learn lessons, but at the same time, it's like, they've already done this before. We've already seen this happen. They've done the same spots. It's like, to answer your question, yes, it needed to happen, but because they've already done it and done it better / worse, it doesn't mean anything. Once I saw the needle spot again, I was like, oh, you're doing that again? Oh, okay. That shouldn't be the reaction to someone jabbing a needle through someone's face. You know,
I agree.
In the band, our drummer's kind of like, he's a wrestling fan, and he said to me, he goes, Jesus, Darragh, what are you going to do next? Run over somebody? And then I kid you not, on Dynamite this week, they ran over someone.
God. Didn't WWE do that back in the day when it was Rikishi? I did it for The Rock.
Yeah.
Didn't they already do that 20 years ago?
They did, but this Darby Allin, they were in the car and the car flipped over and it's like, what are you doing? I thought this is supposed to be the wrestling company. This is supposed to be like where they wrestle. It's like, no, so far I've seen needles going through people's faces, loads of blood, and attempted vehicular manslaughter.
If we ever see Tony Khan get into his car and it explodes, the company's done at that point, because that's just mimicking everything WWE did back in the day.
Well, to wrap up the news segment, right? Really, really interesting story broke today or yesterday. It depended on your time zone. It turns out that Tony Khan actually did try to buy WWE. So back in 2023, when WWE went for sale, there were several different documents leaked, but obviously they were redacted while the company was being sold. So they've been unredacted, and there were several bids that were tendered. One of them was obviously Endeavor, which won, but there was like a $6.5 billion deal or offer submitted to close this deal by Tony Khan's company, the parent company of AEW. And I think that's very, very interesting. Don't you?
It's almost like WWE buying WCW back in 2001. It's almost the competition. They bought the competition, but Vince, who was in charge at the time, was like, nope, that ain't happening. I don't care how much money he offers me. That was never going to happen.
No. But
he wasn't going to sell the competition.
I think it could happen now, like obviously because like Vince is out there and, you know, you can kind of buy more stock, but the only reason why Endeavor won that deal was because like they were like, we'll keep Vince on. And that was apparently why Vince like picked them, because he's like, they won't get rid of me. And then obviously the Janelle Grant thing broke and that's why Vince was gone. But like, I do think it's quite funny that there's so many people that are so like partisan towards WWE and AEW, which again, it's very silly. I don't really understand it. And then at the same time, Tony Khan, the guy who made the alternative, actually wants to buy WWE. So it's just like, right, well, your guy actually is that much of a fan that he actually wants to buy the company. It's weird. It's weird. So someone tried to explain that to me. I'd love to know how that balances out. I really would.
I mean, we saw something similar 30 years ago during the Monday Night Wars. You know, you had people that were adamant WCW was the best product, and you had people that were adamant WWF was the best product.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst kind of bullying is inside a fandom, and you see it in every fandom. Star Wars fans are that way. Star Trek fans are that way. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, whatever nerddom you have, there are always lines drawn, and people are going to be on opposite sides, no matter what. There's a very few that are in the middle going, I just like professional wrestling. I don't care who the company is. I don't care who owns it. I just like to watch professional wrestling. But you have people that are hardcore brand loyal people that are going to stand their ground. Even if they're wrong, they're going to stand their ground. Like that's the same thing it was 30 years ago, and it's happening again now. History is repeating itself.
There's a good phrase. It's credited to Mark Twain, but I'm not sure if it's actually him or not. Nobody really is. It's like history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I saw this on a meme. I try not to argue on Facebook because there's no point. But someone posted like a meme about CM Punk. You know, it was like the Simpsons meme where it's Grandpa Simpson, where he's like saying there's not enough toothless people in Modern Bride magazine. Please add 3. And someone had adapted it saying, I don't like being called old. I am not old, or blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, man, you guys need to get over that. You know, Punk was fired. He didn't leave. And then this guy just went full on, WWE drone. It's like, man, and he called him Phil. It's like as if that upsets him. It's like, it's weird. There's these pain points that exist in the AEW fan base. And it's just like, well, CM Punk was the big one because you let him walk out the door. I don't know why they did that. And that he's like the great Satan now. for AEW fans. And those very same people loved CM Punk when he was in AEW. So that's silly. That's really silly.
Yeah.
That's really silly. I don't understand that mentality, but it is what it is.
If I need a good laugh, I'll go to a wrestling Facebook thread and I'll just read the comments and just laugh like, you've got nothing going on. You've got nothing going on. Oh, that was funny. I'm going to borrow that. You know, if I want to, everybody, there are people, even no matter how bad your day is, somebody's having a worse day. And a comment thread proves that 100%.
Oh man, it does. And it's just, you know, I've never really seen wrestling being this divided. Obviously in the Monday Night Wars it was, but like the internet wasn't really a thing. I know it was, but it wasn't. And it's just kind of like, was it that bad then? Probably. You know, that's probably was. But look, before we get into the time machine real quick, the Randy Orton heel turn. What do you think? Does this make you any way excited for WrestleMania? Like, I still don't care what happens. But it was nice to see the heel Randy Orton back. What did you make of this?
I think it was too little too late. And again, I said this before, and I'll say it again. They should have never put the title on Drew just to put it back on Cody. This heel turn with Randy should have happened like the week after he won the chamber match, or he won the chamber. No, he won the Rumble. Crap, I forgot what he won.
But what
I forgot what he won to get there.
But what do you make of like the promo that we got where Randy Orton's like, hey, you know, Cody was playing champion and like not doing any of the real work. Did that change anything, or is it just like, meh?
No, and it's pretty sad that I can't remember what match he won that get him in the main event of WrestleMania. I'm like, well, okay, but no, it didn't change anything. I mean, the heel, like I said, the heel turn should have happened like a month ago. But you know, WWE is making the mistake. They're playing catch up. They're behind in the Cody and the Randy Orton story, and they're moving too quick with Phil and Roman Reigns. They're moving that one too quick and the other one too slow. They need to ease the brakes on both of them and kind of go, okay, cool. Find that medium, because I'm sorry, if somebody called me old in a ring, I'd knock them out too, and that's a fact.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm 50 years old.
But here's the thing, like Roman Reigns is like what, 6 years younger than Punk? It's like, come on, this is so goofy. It's like, okay, if one of the younger bucks, sorry, I can't even use that term because I'm not talking about the young bucks. I mean, if one of the younger talent from NXT came up and was feuding with Punk, you could understand where he's like, right, he's calling him an old timer, blah blah blah. That kind of holds water. With Roman Reigns, it doesn't, because Roman Reigns is an old timer too. It's like he's past it now as well. Like, okay, Obafemi, right? Him calling Punk old. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. It's like, yeah, because it's like a 20, 30 year age gap there. That does actually make sense. The feud just, it's they're going full.
I think there's more to it than that. It's the fact that Roman's a part-timer.
Yeah,
and
worse again.
If you look at it, CM Punk, almost called him Phil. CM Punk has been working nonstop for the past couple of years. It hasn't really taken a break.
No.
Roman Reigns has taken more breaks than I care to count.
I will say, though, he is going to win.
God, I hope not.
Cody will win and Roman Reigns will win, and the air in that stadium will just go.
Sucked out. Be gone.
No, and I wouldn't be surprised if we end this WrestleMania with boos. Like, throaty, full tilt boos.
It'll remind me of WrestleMania 32, which I was at the AT&T Center when Triple H versus Roman Reigns for the title. I took that opportunity to go, you know what? I don't care. So I started walking. I was in the nosebleeds. I walked down to the main level, and by the time I got to the bottom, the match was over, and it was just boos. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of expected that.
Yeah.
At that point, it was being thrown down our throat at that point.
You beat the traffic then, right?
Well, I was on a bus, so I had to wait for the bus. But I beat everybody getting down from the upper level. I'm like,
but look, as I said, WWE have nobody to blame but themselves here, because I've yet to meet one person that is excited about anything on this guy, or even really see it online. I mean, in real life is one thing, but there's nobody going, oh, I can't wait to see any of these matches. It's like, it doesn't feel like WrestleMania.
Not even a little bit
at all. It's really quite sad. But
look, we watch WrestleMania 15. I think they're trying too hard every year to outdo the previous year. They're trying way too hard to do it. I think simple is better. Watching WrestleMania 15, it was simple. Wrestling wasn't that great, but the stories were there.
No. And look, I think that's a good point to kind of drop back in. So we're going to hop in the time machine here. I do like this one. I have a soft spot for it because I grew up with this one. This is one of the WrestleManias that I remember buying, and it's when you go back and have a look at video packages, it sticks in your memory. It has those moments that you will always remember. And it's funny because like when you haven't watched it in a while and you see the clips of the Austin Rock match, Mankind's in a ref shirt, and you're like, why is Mankind in a ref shirt? And then you go back and watch it, you're like, all right, that's why Mankind was in a ref shirt, you know? But yeah, okay, so this one is WrestleMania 15, Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, and it was from the 28th of March, 1999 at the North. Obviously, in North America, the buy rate was 800,000, and the tagline was the Raging Climax. Thank you, Vince Russo, for that awful time. Right. So it's from the First Union Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and there were 12 matches on the night. We got to see 10 of them on TV, and a lot of them didn't break 11 minutes. There's only 2 matches on this card that broke 11 minutes. One of them was Kane versus Triple H, which ended in disqualification, and was mainly a storyline, really. And the other, of course, was the main event, which is the tail of the tape, really. Part 1 in the 3 WrestleMania series that Rock and Austin would have, ending at WrestleMania 2003. But before we get into this, what are your overall thoughts, Christopher? How did you think this went down? Were you impressed with it, or were you kind of like, meh?
I was impressed. I mean, like, we talked about this before we went on air, is that the wrestling was kind of but the stories were there, and we're getting the inverse. We talked about this earlier. The inverse is what we're having today. We have horrible stories, but the wrestling is incredible. So you need to find that medium. We need to find that medium and have great stories and great wrestling. It'll print money. I guarantee that. One of the moments in this match or this show that I forgot was the hanging of the Big Boss Man. I had forgotten about that. That is such a dark moment in wrestling history. Hanging a guy from the Hell in a Cell cage.
And it's funny because this wouldn't be the only time this year that we would have the Hell in a Cell come back and be used in a really bizarre way. The year would end with the Big Boss Man again in the Kenneth from Hell match, which was a cage match with the Hell in a Cell. But yeah, definitely, this Hell in a Cell match was so meh, and it ends with a hanging. And it's not like a fake hanging. No, it really, really was disturbing where Big Boss Man looked like he was dying. So I used to work as an extra on several movies, several TV shows. And one of them was a movie called, The Frankenstein Chronicles, a TV show. And I'm in season 1, episode 1. And in that movie, in that TV show, I'm not going to give you too much spoilers, but there's a hanging scene. And do you know how you do a hanging scene on TV, Christopher?
I don't.
You literally hang people for real, right? But obviously you don't drop them so their neck doesn't break. But the only real way to get a hanging is to hang someone. So obviously they have them fitted with a certain thing, so it isn't too bad. But it's still an extremely dangerous spot to do. And I'm like, obviously, seeing it happen in front of you, it's very, very morbid. It really is. Like, it will stick with me my entire life because it's like, obviously, you don't see it hanging every day, thank God. But when you see it in front of you, you're like, man, this is some serious, what. And yeah, I can only imagine what the fans were like watching this, going, Undertaker just killed a dude, actively killed a dude on pay-per-view. It's like some Roman stuff. But yeah, look, that match was weird. It is definitely a moment that you remember. It's one that you can't really forget. But for me, like, look, I'll run through the matches real quick. Hardcore Holly defeats Billy Gunn and Al Snow for the Hardcore title. Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett defeats D'Lo Brown and Test for the tag team titles. Butterbean demolishes Bart Gunn in the Brawl for All final. If you want to check out our entire season on Brawl for All, it is in our feed. I'll link it below. We did that with James Truepenny a couple of years ago. Mankind defeats The Big Show by disqualification to be special guest referee in the main event. Road Dogg defeats Goldust with the Blue Meanie, Ken Shamrock and Val Venus, a 4 corners elimination match for the IC belt. Kane defeats Triple H in a singles match. Sable defeats Tori Wilson for the women's title. Shane McMahon defeats X-Pac with the help of Test for the WWE European title. Undertaker defeats Big Boss Man. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats The Rock. Now, some people are going to be like, look, the only match you really have to watch on this is the main event. I disagree. I think this show in general is a pretty decent watch. I agree with Christopher. The wrestling is not very good, like at all. There's a lot of raw matches on this. You know, this is a very, very bloated card. But I have to say, it opens up with one of my favorite WrestleMania openers ever. And I wish they bring the Hardcore title back because that's what this was perfect for. Hardcore Holly, Billy Gunn and Al Snow work an extremely entertaining match. It's about 7 minutes. It's slightly too long, but also still really fun. And it has one of my favorite moments ever. Al Snow comes out, breaks the hockey stick over his back, and then gets a "Let's Go Flyers" chant going. Thought that was hilarious. And it's so Attitude Era, you know, because it's like Al Snow knew what he had to do, always entertaining, could just work these fantastic matches with Hardcore Holly. And that was kind of like the backbone of this. Hardcore Holly, Al Snow, Big Boss Man, they spent the whole year and the following year trading the belt back and forward. You'd mix in the Big Boss Man sometimes, but any pay-per-view that you're watching around this time, watch the Hardcore title match. It's totally worth it. What did you think of this?
That match was actually pretty good, and they talked about how a month prior it was Hardcore Holly and Al Snow fighting on the banks of the Mississippi River in Memphis, Tennessee. So I like how they were bringing up previous matches from previous shows.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good match.
And we covered that on this show as well, so I thought it was a nice kind of like link in this kind of arc, you know. That's one thing that WWE used to do really, really well. Their actual internal continuity was actually quite strong. 1999 has a really good continuity line. Now look, is it contrived? Yes it is. Not yet, but it does get there. Like in the same year after this, Vince McMahon gets fired from WWE. Then he has to then the referees go on strike, so he has to become he has to fight for Linda's honor. Then he wins the title. Then he puts the title away, and it's just loads of contrivances that happen. But I think at this point, it was still a very, very strong arc from like 1998 all the way up to like the end of 1999 is when it gets the wheels kind of come off a little bit. But still, you get that big payoff into 2000. So there is something to be said for it. But if it goes too far, it can go too far. But I really like the flow of this show. I thought it was quite strong. Yeah, look, they could have cut about 4 matches on this, but I suppose if you're watching this at the time, you're not really getting your Mac classics. So you had to make up for it with a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of guys and girls who shouldn't have been on the show, but Shane McMahon was untested. He didn't really know what he could do. By all rights, he shouldn't have been at WrestleMania having a WrestleMania match, but probably the third best match of the night, Shane McMahon and X-Pac.
Oh yeah, arguably.
You know? And then look, we had
that double swerve where Triple H and China get back together. So DX is back. Yay. And then nope, not so fast. They turn on X-Pac, dividing the lines. Triple H and China are part of the corporate entity. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh.
Yeah, it was the start. It was the start of Triple H becoming the game. In 3 months, he'd be challenging for the title. So it was, this is a really cool turn for Triple H. And there was a lot of really cool stuff going on at this. It's a bit of a dud of a WrestleMania because it was a bit too early in the year for these stories to pay off, but a bit too late for them to really change anything. So they kind of had to just go with what they had. The Brawl for All, again, it's just a case of they should have just thrown that out way sooner. You could have tightened this up, but they just didn't really have anyone to have your 25-minute matches. They were in WCW on the undercard. They weren't there yet. You know, Jericho, the Radicals, Kurt Angle, they would all be there at the end of 1999 into 2000, but at this point, you're smack bang in the middle of the Attitude Era, buddy. And sadly, the Attitude Era, while great, the wrestling was not important. But look, you made a very good point, Christopher, before we went on air, that modern WWE, has kind of inverted this. I don't want to steal your thunder. So what was the quote before you went on air?
I should have wrote it down, but it's like, back then they had great wrestling, or they had great stories, horrible wrestling. Now we have horrible stories, great wrestling. I'm in the middle.
I love it.
It's that simple. Find the medium.
Yeah. And look, they could. It's funny because like a lot of people who were involved in this on this card are either directly involved in wrestling now or where. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's Stevie Richards' podcast is pretty good. I don't know why they haven't ranked him. You know, he seems to have a pretty good read on it. But there's just so many of these frustrating things that they had already figured out how to get from A to B 20, 30 years ago, and now they're struggling to piece together anything. Like, the main event of this show was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And obviously, Austin is it'd be a couple of months away from his neck injury, but he's still on the run of his life, building up The Rock. The Rock hasn't turned yet. He's still the corporate Rock, but he is starting to. You have these colossal stars, like colossal stars.
Yeah.
And yet, in a very, very complex story and a very kind of, contrived story. That's the best way to describe Vince Russo's writing at times. But that being said, when you're watching the show, no one really gets lost. You know, the pacing of it was really, really good. You got to have your hardcore match. You still remember that. You had your tag team match. You had your nonsense that you could go to the concession stand or whatever. Then you had your double turn, the Hell in a Cell thing, Shane McMahon. Everything you can still felt like it still worked and you'd be excited to see it. And even when I was watching this myself, I was looking forward to going, oh my God, right, we have this hardcore match. You know, we have this, and this. I just don't think you get that with this year's WrestleMania.
No, you don't.
You know, like even still, like, we know what's going to happen or whatever, but you know.
We have more matches, but in this WrestleMania, we have more matches, but they all were going in a direction that we were hoping to see. Now it's like, okay, cool. Rhea versus Jade. Who cares? Oh, Randy versus Cody. Who cares? You know, there's a lot of, again, we said it before. It doesn't feel like it's WrestleMania season. We've been saying that on my podcast for the past month and a half. It does not feel like WrestleMania season. You know, we're on the road to WrestleMania and it's full of potholes, is what I've been saying for the last month.
That's very good.
Oh,
and look,
yeah.
I think that's as good a place to leave it as anywhere. We're on the road to WrestleMania. It's full of potholes. Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
That, you know what? That's the title of the show this week. That's what we're going with. But sir, thank you so much for your time this week and for that phenomenal title. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yes, you can follow my podcast, the Jazz Zodiac Podcast, on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. My movie podcast, The Real Movie Critics, is also on the same page. I'm in the process of putting everything on the one YouTube separate channels. But again, just search up the Jazz Zodiac Podcast. All of the movie critic reviews, as well as the weekend wrestling reviews, are on there as well.
Fantastic. And remember, folks, if this is your first time checking us out, you're driving, you're listening to Phoenix FM, what are you doing? As soon as you get home, nerdtoknowmedia.com, subscribe on YouTube. It's on Spotify. We have a website as well. Everything is there, all for free. You can go back and check out all of our content. We have our nerd show. We have a wrestling show. And again, we do this every single week. Please do leave your comments below and we'll read them out, because at the end of the day, that's the best way you can reach out to us. And we will talk to you next week here on the Wrestling Rewind. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.